Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to NDISCO'S Village Meeting Podcast. This is our series 3, and this is episode 39. Welcome. Um, this is your hostess, Dr. Marcellina and M.OPARAOJI, um, acknowledging and appreciating the fact that you make out the time to listen and to share. I am asking you to do one more step. Please subscribe. It's free, okay? So that this can be sent to you directly without any hesitations or any delays. As soon as I publish them, they come to you. And you can make all the efforts to share your thoughts, respond, and if you have any idea for these young ones or any inputs, please feel free to give them some of your thoughts. It takes a village to raise a child. We Africans, we say that, and we have to act on that as well. Because this is your Africa Society and Culture podcast, where we discuss everything under the sun. And most of our topics, they may be tailored to the African society and the culture of the Africans, but almost all the topics are universal in nature. So if you are outside of Africa, you can also benefit from that. And when I say Africans, I mean those within the homestead or on the soil of Africa and those in diaspora all over the world. This will benefit. And please modify the ideas to suit your region or your areas. In episode 38 of series 3, we started on a fresh topic, and that was on the concerns of your young adults, parents. One of the concerns they are sharing is that it's hard to raise you. So the topic is, it's hard to raise our parents. Okay, I'll let that sink in a little bit. Think about it, because we have been the ones raising them. And at this moment, we are now, being raised by them. It's always the dream of any parent to do that. But at this point, I don't know if we are doing a good job of it or not. And if they are doing a good job of it or not, of parenting us and all that. So what we are going to ask for is for you to have an open mind and listen. And that means you put yourself in their place. Remember when you were the ones raising them. They listened. They weren't perfect. Some did exactly what we asked them to do. Some didn't do what we asked them to do. Some fell by the wayside of doing what we are asking them to do. But this is the time now where we are, it's the reverse. They are the ones now telling us, you got to listen to us because we seem to know better. And there are reasons for that. So I shared with you that the first one, and we tackled on episode 38, was the aspect of the emotions, the emotional and impacts, the emotional impact, the emotional effect, the emotional implications of their complaints that is hard for them to raise us. And some people, I have heard parents who hear that I'm like, no, that's a taboo. How can our children raise us? Well, the child grows up, and the child now becomes a parent, Well, it's the other way around. It's part of, creation. It's part of evolution, and it's part of nature. There's nothing we can do about it, but to acknowledge it if we can. And that's just what it is. So um, today we are going to go, and that was a part A of what we were talking about. So today is the second part of this series. If I can pull this up, because it's not letting me, let me see. There you go. Um, I hope you can see it now. There you go. Oops, where did it go? Okay, stop doing that. So I try to do so that you look at the topic because I'm a visual person as well. So I try to have people also see what it is before we go into discussions. So this is also asking, sharing the same complaint. It is hard to raise our parents. And now on the part B, this is the second episode on this topic. Let's consider the possible economic and financial effects, impact, implications of this particular idea. Okay. One of the things I will share a little bit of the statistics here, just one of them, so that we have an idea of where they are coming from. When we, their parents, graduated in our own environments, doing our own upstart like them, there were jobs waiting. All you had to do was get the education or get the skills, and something is out there waiting for you. I remember some people, saying that they graduated and as soon as they came out, they had cars, they had jobs waiting. They didn't have to pile themselves with all the school loans and all that. That's not the case today. In Africa, especially in some regions, not all of the countries or nations of Africa, but in most majority of them, today they come out. A good example is my other country, Nigeria, where students work hard, get all the degrees in the world they could, and then come out, there are no jobs. And there are no funds to start any, um, building the skills by themselves to start a small business or something. So imagine that. Just put that picture in your head of this person having parents, aging parents that they need to take care of. It gets sticky. When the parents were young, they did all they could. It's no fault of theirs that they put in everything, in most cases, that they could to get this child, and at least that's part of our culture, to get them going so that when they turn around and they're at the old age, these ones will be able to take care of them. On the source of Africa, that's not really happening a lot. Even in diaspora, even if there are jobs, these young ones are so laden with school loans that they can't breathe. Not to talk about taking care of parents. So the statistics out there is saying that 65%, especially the Gen Zs, and 74% of the millennials, they are going to be, if care is not taken, there's no absolute in anything, be having some really financial toughness when they get to retire, when they get to a certain age, because they're not saving enough now because of all the things that are taking the money away from them. That's the environment they are now going into, whether they are in, A region or B region. The economy all over the world is a little bit tight. So it's affecting them all. So I didn't make this up. That's the statistics out there. So today we're going to look at the impact of economy or in their economic, ability and their finance, um, in helping raise their parents. And the idea of this is for you, the parents, for us, the parents, to start having an idea of where they stand, because most of us don't. Most of us think, oh, we've given you life, we've given you accommodation, bread and bed and butter and all that. It's your turn now to take care of us. Not even thinking twice. How are they going to do that? Are they even surviving themselves? So it's an African thing. But again, you don't blame these parents because they did that for their own parents, taking care of them at old age. But what we have to think about is that still the same. Is the environment the same? Is the outlook the same? Economic, emotional and all that. A whole lot is riding with our kids today. We're not going to tell them to be lazy and not do what they're supposed to do, but sometimes I think we went all the way to the other extreme, which at that time worked for us, but we are not expecting it to work for them today because things are not the same. So let's look into the economic and financial aspect of this topic. Why it's hard for our young ones, Africans especially, to raise us, their parents. Okay? One of the points that was raised is that, again, I compare notes of many schools of thoughts out there. What do they think? They may not be Africans, but also we need to realize that sometimes these things affect other parts of the region, and some of them are what they encounter. Okay, there is increase in the burden of these young adults due to the caregiving costs, for example. Okay, we're talking about aging parents here now. They're living longer. Before, it used to be if your father, your mother is getting to 50, 60, 70 years old, in some regions of the world, the longevity of life is tapped at maybe 60, 70. But when they get to 80, 90, 100, which a lot of them, are attaining now, something gets to get exhausted along the way. And the onus is now on these younger ones that we brought into this world to help us navigate this old age that God has given the gift and the technology and everything to keep us longer. But what is it doing to our kids? So you retire at an early age and there is nothing else you're doing. And if you're maybe in the countries where they help give you back some of what you worked for, it's never enough, especially if you have some, disease conditions. And some of them who are really sick end up in maybe nursing homes and all that. It's still not free, okay? And you got to feed, you got to house yourself and all that. It's no longer when you used to have all that income, unless you saved a whole lot of money. And statistics out there is saying that even if you have in the bank $1 million, today it's not enough to help you along the way till the good Lord calls you home, because nobody knows how long anybody's living nowadays. So go figure. They have college loans, like I mentioned, to add to the caregiving cost of taking care of you. Most of them may not be living with you in their houses. They may find an apartment for you, which they are paying for, or they may end up putting you in a nursing home if nobody else is taking care of you, which is going to cost them extra. So whichever way, that is a burden that is there. Some people have mentioned that, well, if there is a cost, for Africans, you send your elderlies home so that the caregiving cost is lower. Well, remember the health aspect of it. Remember the security aspect of it. Remember even those caregivers you have at home, how adequate and how considerate are they? We have a lot of stories going on. So are you listening to them, to their own suggestions of what would as a parent? That's where they're having the struggle, that it's hard to help raise you at this point because sometimes you didn't make it easy for them to start with. So again, this is also where some of the younger ones now who are now in the next generation should start learning from what these ones are going through and what um, you know the generation that is now um, getting towards retirement and getting old and dying off. They should learn from them. The other aspect of this economy, or economic and financial aspect, is the potential loss of income. Um, these ones, and we've seen a whole lot of that, especially those who brought their parents from home who are helpless back then, Africans abroad in this case. You don't have any caregiver, they don't have any government assistance here or anything because they never lived here. And it costs you money to also bring somebody from outside to take care of your elderly ones if they are here with you, especially if they are in a disease state. So what do? These young adults, they start um, reducing their hours of work. And in most cases, you are paid by the hour. So any day you don't show up, you don't get paid, or any hours you don't show up, you don't get paid. And then you reduce your hours, which also reduces your income, you know. And some of them, because some places of work will not tolerate your calling off all the time or reducing your hours because they need your manpower. And so some of them, this has led to loss of job. And, you know, some of them, it calls for them quitting their jobs actually also to take care of these young ones. And that's the empathy in them because they feel they're obligated to take care of their older, their parents. So if we had helped them upfront, the problem wouldn't have, gotten to this level where they have to go through this. So these are some of the things that I go through. The other aspect is some of them who could save, the strain on their personal savings in order to help. Some of them are not even, planning their retirement as early as they should, because that's what some of their parents failed to do. They failed to plan for retirement, and they will know, especially the African ones. Our children keep saying it in our faces. What you did when you guys were growing up, we cannot and we should never do. Them telling us this because we buckled down to help a lot of people back home and we enabled laziness. That majority of those that were being helped never helped themselves. It's not 100%. Some did well with what they were given, but they see it as their parents were really went overboard to help out with asking deeper questions without clarification. They kept being the fool they were, which rendered them helpless now in their situations. So they are doing all that is possible in their own minds or missed not to repeat what their parents did. And so, but again, everything else is dipping into their pockets. I mentioned school loan, I mentioned joblessness, I mentioned everything that they can't even plan those of them now. So, but they are the little that they have, they could have put away for rainy days, and what they're applying now to their parents. The parents, they hiccup and they take care of them. They do because they are helpless. What do you do? Because the society, especially African society, will put the guilt on your head. Like, oh, you're neglecting your parent, do this and that. And the parents themselves, they put the fire under their children that, some of them either cut off talking to the parents or they run away and, they get depressed again. We talked about that, about the situation, or they get burnt out because the parents are now telling everybody in the world that their children are useless. So that's one point. The other one is the impact on mental health, leading to potential healthcare costs. So both the parent that they're raising now and themselves raising the parents or were raised by their parents, everybody now is in this mental medium or emotional medium that is not safe for anyone. Because the one that is raising the parent is thinking, why me? There's so much on my head. Why me? And the one being raised, who raised them, now the parents are saying, you're not doing enough. Okay. And this tells on our mental health. You are disappointed in yourself. You are, as a caregiver, because you think you're not doing enough. And then at the same time, you're resenting them because, oh, you're doing everything. Why didn't they take care of themselves or plan for this day before? But then there are so many circumstances that there is no one to blame. But again, we are talking about this in the case that anybody who can listen, it's never too late to start doing stuff. Okay. The other aspect that they talked about is shift in family dynamics. Okay. Um, the household financial stability is dependent on so many things. Again, like I said, you got to have a job to have financial stability, and then you have to have the health to have the financial stability or the age to do that. But this shift, when this shift happens, it tells on anything financial. When you move your parents from the homestead overseas, or you move them from overseas back home and you don't have any siblings back home, or you have siblings here and the onus is just on one person, if you have two or three here to take care of your mom or dad or this parent that you're taking care of, it becomes a burden to the fact that, not a burden that you cannot take care of it, but that we don't know which family members will be able to take care of this person better than the others. And I've seen that, come to play where one family member is thinking, no, this person is not taking care of my mom very much, blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes when the mom, who may have um, the rights or certain rights within the region, because maybe they lived here, for example, they came to the overseas and that's where they raise the children and all that. So at their old age, they're entitled to some help from the government. This is where some of the siblings start the brouhaha of who takes care of this person in order to get whatever funds and all that. It's a little bit complicated, but some of those things are not what we discuss here. But the fact that such shift in family dynamics of where are they going to stay, who is taking care of them, where do they live, because somebody has to keep an eye on these people. That's part of our life. Is it's really a little bit a challenge for these young ones, and so they are thinking which one is the best for them. Some of them who are single and not married, when they when they live with their parents, which is not what extended family situation is supposed to be. In Africa, we live with extended families. But remember today, these young ones are getting into interracial, international, and all that stuff, kind of marriages. And not everybody is thinking alike. Not every culture is the same. And so, what the current adults or elders were used to, bringing mom, dad, grandpa, and grandma, everybody in the same compound, in the same house, eating from the same, it's no longer what it is today because everybody wants their own privacy. So it's hard for them to raise their parents in that way, to bring them into a situation where not everybody is comfortable. But this is where us Africans we say, hey, that's not part of our culture, but we need to meet them halfway to know what could work for everyone. And that is what they are saying to us. The emotional stress that can affect productivity and overall well-being of everyone involved in this is at stake, because these young ones are looking at us like, you don't understand, mom, you don't understand, dad. I cannot do ABC the way you want me to do it and the way you used to do it. Can I do it my own way? And we, the elders, they are now the ones they're now raising. We are looking at them like they are from, planet X, because we don't understand where they got their bearings from. This is not our culture, as we will say. This is un-African. But have we looked at all the aggregates? Have we sat in their own place to see what is and what isn't? Now, one of the things they blame us, their parents, on in the economic and financial aspect is that we made wrong choices from the start. The idea of building big houses in the communities, in the villages, we didn't invest. Majority, I'm not meaning everyone, majority of the people, they thought, and that was, if you read the history of those who came to study here, the first, second, and third generation, I mean, the plan was to finish studies and go home. But that didn't happen, because then home, and I'm talking about everywhere in Africa, if you could come out, majority of the places in Africa, if not 90% or 99.9% of places, didn't have anything that could sustain someone who had a certain level of education, is that they came out and they didn't go back. They started building here, and then their thoughts were, when the time comes, we'll retire back home. And that's where they started building. But they didn't really build reasonably, according to our children. We build stupidly because we didn't invest the money here. We used the money to go buy, build big houses back home that nobody stays in, that a few weeks or a few months in a year. We even bought cars and bought furniture and equipped the whole place that nobody uses. And the people that we trust to take care of these things at the home base, some of them did well, some of the others, didn't do well with what they were entrusted with. So these young ones are seeing all this and they're like, we're not making that mistakes. Yes, their parents, they didn't do that because they wanted to waste money, but that was the trend. But then the parents now are not meeting them halfway by saying, you know what, if anybody else is going to be away, tell the person, don't build all these, storied buildings, because at the time you may not be able to climb the steps anymore. Um, you get, one room downstairs, if you had a room downstairs, to make up so that you don't climb. We are not, equipped yet to have the escalators that go up and down in certain buildings. Some of them have it. So that's a burden for them. Even they send us home, they got to build something else that will be comfortable enough that we don't fall or do anything else. So that's a burden for them. And then we are expecting them to, after some time, pack up their own loads and live in those mansions that we build back home. And I tell people that ain't happening. Okay? It's a global village now. It's a global world where they can operate from anywhere. It doesn't have to, they may visit, they may stay there for a little while, but don't embark on them sitting in those mansions back home. And that's one of the things they are saying to you. If you put all your money in the banks back home, they can invest anywhere in the world. And that's what we're encouraging them to do, because you can always reach your financial or your funding from anywhere. So these are some of the things that are worrying them, keeping them sleepless at night, because financially they can't do anything. And if, excuse me, when their parents decide to go home, retire, some of them get into another habit of, excuse me, getting married again and start producing younger ones that they are not going to be alive to take care of. One of them told me, he said, that's an added burden to me as a son or a daughter to start taking care of siblings that were not necessary to start getting into by our parents. And one of the things that now many people are witnessing are that those little ones that are born at home, including their mothers who, with a second marriage or third marriage or whatever, they don't want to stay home. They want to japa or japa, the way, whatever you call it. They want to get out. So at the end, the homestead is still empty. Nobody is there because of our planning. So I think we need to listen to them when they try to share with us, when they try to tell us things. We're not listening. And that's their complaint, that nobody asks of their opinions, especially when it comes to economic and financial aspect. When they were growing up, nobody told them anything. Some of their parents have accounts all over the world that they have no idea of. So, and I've said it in one of my episodes, when you take them home, don't just leave them to run around in the village. Do you even have the time to show them where the farms are, to show them who their next uncle or next of kin or whatever is? Most of them have no idea. Okay. Do they know where your stuff is? Do they know anything about your grandmother? What is the lineage? Do they know your lineage? Do you know about your do you have history of your own, line of parentage or line of ancestry that you can share with these ones? So when you expect them to know, to be able to do, we are closer to our maker now than to the longevity we also crave. But the thing is that unless we start now, I have seen people who start early to divide their estates among their children now that they can talk, now that they can capable of giving to whom what they feel they deserve, or that, including the women that are going to be married if they wish to wait for us, we elders, to die before then a will is read, or sometimes we don't, even as Africans, don't believe in wills. And then you see others, on the side, the extended relatives, coming to give their own ultimatums or their own, things. Nobody does all this just for the love of it. People have their ulterior motives sometimes. Not everyone, but majority of the time is what is in it for them, not necessarily to uphold you. So, um, this is what we are saying. Economically, start now. The estates, you can build estates, for the your offsprings. And now that they are raising you, they can help you also in that financial aspect. They pick up the baton from you. They pick up the estate, and you can help them if you're a business person. Run your business, show them the ropes, and at the end, when you are now taking your last breath, you rest assured that life goes on for your family. Because we have heard a lot of stories of people who, when they die, everything that they have worked hard for goes up in smoke because you don't know. Your children didn't know, your family didn't know, um, especially the children. You need to let them understand who you are, and what you are about. The mere fact that your relatives may know more about what you do or what you have than your children is a handicapped situation. It's a handicapped situation. So let's make haste while the sun shines. They are complaining financially, economically. It's difficult to raise you, their parents. Okay? So I'm just a messenger. Okay? And I want you to share with us what you think on your own. What is it that they are not listening to you on, on the return, or what are you expecting from them that they are not doing? Maybe if you sit down with them, they will explain that to you, but they did. And that's what I'm sharing with you. Please subscribe and share. And take your time. The good thing about the podcast is that you can listen, stop and go back, or listen during your chores when you are driving or anything. It doesn't mean that you're going to sit at a place to do that. And we're trying to make it as short as possible. But sometimes the topics don't lend themselves to that kind of situation. And this is where I say thank you very, very much. And from wherever you're watching, and listening, and I warmly wish you a wonderful day. Thank you again. I appreciate you. This is your hostess, Dr. Marcellina M.OPARAOJI, saying goodbye for now.